turn. So the last, okay, perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so now I'm giving the word to Ferdinand, the moderator of this conference, to start this great webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Zamira, and welcome everyone. Salam alaikum. I mean, it's great to have you all here, and we have an interesting afternoon, or let's say late afternoon, in front of us with indeed several esteemed presenters, speakers, experts. That's really great. And I think the purpose of it is not only to hear and to listen and to hopefully better understand, but also ask questions. I mean, this is a webinar. It should be, I think that's also in line with the purpose of Chapter 0. It should be facilitating discussions and exchange. So please feel free to ask questions either during or right after the presentation of the individual presenters, but definitely also in the, let's say, the last 20 minutes or so. Because what we do is we have our four esteemed speakers. Shagzot from Ministry of Economic and Finance. We've got Zariana from Central Bank, Uzbekistan, Aaron from TBC Bank, and Tatiana from KPMG, all giving different perspectives on greening, on green finance, on ESG in financial services institutions, all the things which are currently at play and which will be continuing to be at play. So really great that we have all those four esteemed speakers. So 15 minutes for each of those, and I've asked the presenters or the experts to well, if they have slides, to limit the number of slides in order to be sure that we have also some room for discussions. So 4 times 15 is 60 minutes. Then we run already across the 1 hour mark, and then we have another maybe 20 minutes or so left to have a more plenary discussion with the experts. So that's basically the order of things. Just before we get started with Shagzot, just to give a little bit of perspective on myself, as Zamira already kindly told in the introduction, I'm in the supervisory board of SQB Bank here in Uzbekistan. Amongst other things, looking at ESG, green banking, sustainability efforts. Very interesting topic, a topic which is close to my heart also in previous phases of my life. So it's great to see that Uzbekistan is going through these changes, and you see more and more greening efforts all across the economy, including initiatives by the Uzbekistan government. So that's really great to see this transition. And what is the role we have to play? I think all of our experts have their perspective, and would like to give the floor now to Shagzot to tell a bit more about taxonomy, etc. Shagzot is from the Green Economy Department in the Ministry of Economy and Finance. So Shagzot, would you mind taking us through this topic, and indeed limit yourself, if possible, to, let's say, a short presentation and leaving some room for initial questions from the audience. And if there's more questions, we can save them until let's say, the last part of today's webinar. Thank you. Shagzot, please.
So thank you, Ferdinand, Zamira, thank you for the opportunity to take a place, and it's very good kind of step of sharing the experience of the government in the green. So I will start with some of the points that how the green started in Uzbekistan. So as you may know, there is a green economy transition strategy that has adopted in 2019, and this is a big pathway started in 2019. But due to some kind of problems in like a COVID in 2019-2020, so some of the actions has stopped, and we have to kind of redevelop our strategy and adopt the green growth strategic framework in 2021. So with this green growth strategic framework, we started the implementation of the green taxonomy, the I-REC certification, and other points like carbon trading, the overall aligning with the Paris Agreement. So I would like to start with the taxonomy. So based on the Cabinet of Ministers resolution that adopted in 2023, we have started our journey on the green on the green taxonomy. As you may know, the green taxonomy, it helps us, and it kind of the platform, the scheme that provides, the document provides the systematic classification of the economic activities, the projects, assets, and all the kind of actions that is going on in our government. So also the taxonomy serves for the both, you know, the public and private investments. So with these first kind of a point of implementation, we have identified the entrepreneurship development company, and his strategy of green transition has adapted based on this taxonomy, and they are aligned that at least 30% of their actions should be aligned with the green taxonomy and aligned with the green projects. So with my presentation, I would like to share the scheme, how it works, and there is a short view on how the green taxonomy works in Uzbekistan. So there is the workflow, how the projects, the activities, the overall the actions should be identified by taxonomy. So there is a steps that the projects and the screening, the projects should go through the screening and through the applications of technical evaluation and technical screening. We are coming to the overall the improvement of the project, and adapting that we kind of confirm that the project and activity is aligned with the green taxonomy. So in the green taxonomy, we are identified the renewable energy sources, the energy efficiency, also the construction of the green buildings, preventing the air pollution, water management, and other points. So with this, we are pushing the idea of bringing the investments to Uzbekistan to start the projects that should be, covered, and not even covered, that should be expanding the green actions in Uzbekistan. With this idea, we are now kind of adapting, updating our green taxonomy on the technical way. For now, is just the recommendations in the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, when you can show, when you can see that some of the points could be aligned with the project, and because it's kind of a document that helps to companies and developers to identify the project is green or not.
Sure. So may I immediately ask a quick question? CAFI, can you quickly explain what that is? I think that's an abbreviation which maybe not everybody knows.
What kind of abbreviation?
Sorry, CAFI. It's in your schedule, the right-hand box. Following evaluation by the CAFI system. Is everybody aware what that is? I mean, I'm just wondering.
I have to check out the CAFI. Something like the Central Asia framework implementation, something like this. I have to check out.
Okay.
With this framework, we would like to put it more adaptive way. For now, we are request the support of the World Bank and PwC. They redeveloped the scheme of overall the taxonomy, and we are moving this taxonomy in the new way, because for now it's more aligned with the Central Asia's requirements. There is a low criteria for the renewable energies, the transport, water management, etc. So we are on the stage of bringing the criteria for the project that aligns with the European standards. So we are on the new stage of updating the national taxonomy for the green economy. The next point is the green energy certification. As you may know, there is a lot of green energy certification exist in the world, and some of them, they are covering some of the part of the countries. And we are choose to use opportunity of cooperating with the I-REC, the International Renewable Energy Certification Standard. The standard allows us to identify that the 100 kilowatt hours of the electricity that generated from the stations that are green. So as you may know, there are a lot of stations in Uzbekistan exist, and they are all, mixed in the one energy system. So the I-REC certification allows us to identify that some of the portion that generated from the, for example, for now we are using the Uz hydro energy, the hydropower stations that are generating electricity. So we are on the stage of selling the certifications generated by the hydropower stations. So also we are on the stage of implementation, also bringing the new stations like solar and the wind farms to the overall the standard, but it's under the consideration. So these kind of certifications fully align with the ESG principles. So by the promotional, so they help to companies reduce their carbon footprint, achieve net zero targets, and reaching their aims on the the low carbon development. So we have the presidential decree that adopted in 2023, and the overall the regulation how it will work. So as I said before, there is a certification, there is a production of the electricity from the thermal power plants and the other renewables. So for the renewables, we are highlighting the hydropower, the solar, and the wind. So the enterprises who are buying the electricity, who are buying the certifications, they are proving that they are investing in the green energy. They are identified like using the from overall the how I can say the net, the electricity net. They're using the green part of the energy that generated from the plants. So there is a Minister of Economy and Finance who is issuer of the certificates, and for now we are already sell around 90,000 certificates, and our aim for the 2025 is 4,100 certificates that we have to sell to our companies. But there is even more requests from the joint stock companies to bring new and good opportunities to bring more certificates. With this, I also would like to highlight we have the obligations under the Paris Agreement for the national determined contributions. We are also on the stage of establish the carbon trading platform and the mechanism. As you may know, it takes around 9 or 10 years when the Article 6 for the Paris Agreement just adopted in the Baku during the COP29. And we are on the stage of bringing the new regulations that align with the new rules of the Article 6. And today, as you may know, our NDC should be revised, and we have to kind of bring new, more ambitious NDCs to Uzbekistan. So all these actions like taxonomy, the I-REC, and overall the carbon trading helps the companies to identify their initiatives on the green. And with this identification, they can attract more investments in their company, bring more opportunities to going through the decarbonizations and achieve the net zero target. So based on the time limitation, I would like to stop here and give the floor to the Ferdinand. Thank you.
Thank you, Shagdad. Very interesting. And I think in this short period of time, you already touched upon two very interesting subjects on which you can hold full day webinars all by themselves, right? The taxonomy and how that works out, and including the certification, and you already mentioned the trading and the emission trading initiatives. Fantastic. I first would like to remark somebody gave me in the chat an enlightenment on this CAFI, this abbreviation. It stands for Climate Assessment for Financial Institution, the CAFI tool, which indeed is an internationally recognized tool to calculate the effects on basically on emissions or on emission reduction or on energy save. So it's like an internationally recognized. There is CAFI is one of them. There is probably more which are recognized. If you use them as a financial institution, for example, you can demonstrate the effects in kilowatt hour terms or in CO2 reduction terms. CAFI, Climate Assessment for a Financial Institution tool. I think in the workout of this webinar, the materials will be shared with you afterwards. Zamira, can you make sure that we have the CAFI link to the CAFI tool included so everybody can look that up? Would like to open up the floor briefly before we move on to the next speaker. But is there already now a question from the audience? Please don't be shy. I mean, there's interesting topics being raised by Shahzad. Anybody from the audience, please speak up. You can just open up your microphone and ask a question. Please go ahead. Nobody for now? No problem. You can also save your questions for later on. Oh, there's somebody.
No, that's me. I just wanted to say they can just type their questions and maybe like if they get it, we can answer at the end.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Shahzad. And I'm sure we'll get back to you also when we open it up for the questions. Thank you so much for presenting the perspective from the ministry. Next speaker would like to introduce now is Zariana from the Central Bank of Uzbekistan, Chief Specialist Methodologies. Zariana, would you like to present? I understand you would like to do this in Russian. No problem. Please go ahead.
Всем добрый день. Сегодня я расскажу вам информацию по стратегии по управлению и контролю за финансовыми рисками, связанными с изменениями климата в банковской системе на 2025-2027 год. Эта стратегия, она была разработана в феврале этого года со стороны Центрального банка и определяет те мероприятия, которые Центральный банк планирует проводить для того, чтобы настроить надзор в банках за климатическими рисками. Ну, давайте оттолкнемся от того, что стало основой для разработки стратегии. Основой для разработки стратегии стали принципы Базельского комитета. Базельский комитет отмечает 18 принципов, из них 1 по 12 принципы, они относятся к руководству по эффективному управлению рисками, связанными с климатом для банка, а с 13 по 18 это руководство для пруденциальных органов. Ну, как я уже говорила, основная цель стратегии – это налаживание практики управления рисками, которые связаны с изменением климата именно в банковской сфере. Далее я представлю вам план мер. То есть стратегия, она состоит из 6 направлений: регулирование, надзор, финансовая стабильность, сотрудничество, денежно-кредитная политика и повышение квалификации сотрудников Центрального банка. Что интересно отметить касательно самой стратегии, то в рамках регулирования в этом году планируется ввести рекомендации по управлению климатическими рисками в банках. И впервые Центральный банк будет апробировать систему, когда регулирование будет носить мягкий характер, то есть на начальном этапе рекомендации, они будут необязательные к исполнению, то есть в течение с 2025 по конец 2027 года банки будут готовиться к переходу для исполнения этих принципов, когда они станут уже обязательными, и в течение 2025 года будет проходить плавный переход и плавная настройка системы управления рисками. рисками. По результатам имплементации, которые можно посмотреть в пункте надзора, будет принято решение, какими будут рекомендации, то есть какие требования будут устанавливаться, станут ли они обязательны и в какой форме они будут выглядеть. Второй блок – это надзорный блок. Он в основном состоит из системы самооценки банками и системы управления рисками. Они будут отмечать, каким условиям по рекомендациям они не соответствуют, будут определять этапы соответствия, временные рамки, а также в течение 2026 года будет проведен анализ, выявлены банки-аутсайдеры и банки, которые имеют наиболее лучшую практику. После этого банкам будет предложено тем, кто отстает, улучшить свои системы, и уже после полной интеграции климатических рисков, настройки их у банков, они будут интегрированы в надзорную деятельность. А вторая большая работа, которая будет проводиться Центральным банком, это работа Департамента финансовой стабильности, который будет в течение длительного времени готовиться к проведению стресс-тестирования всей банковской системы к климатическим рискам. Сейчас уже на данном этапе разработана и несколько раз публиковалась зеленая панель, в которой определяются индикаторы. Те индикаторы, которые будут использоваться впоследствии для стресс-тестирования. Остальные этапы – это сотрудничество с международными органами и, наверное, государственными органами в рамках изменения климата, а также вопросы денежно-кредитной политики, в рамках которой будет оцениваться, изучаться влияние изменения климата на инфляцию и вообще на денежно-кредитную политику. И что можно сказать? Как Узбекистан, он, наверное, страна, которая достаточно сильно подвержена изменению климата, и сами риски, они уже ощущаются в нашей системе, то есть и в нашей повседневной жизни, и в банковской сфере. И вот эта табличка, разработанная Базельским комитетом, да, это трансмиссионные каналы, как риски, они переходят, то есть как климат, к каким рискам он ведет. То есть риски, как известно, они делятся на переходные и физические, при этом физические риски, они делятся на экстремальные и хронические, то есть те риски, которые возникают спонтанно, то есть такие как наводнения, ураганы и землетрясения, которые очень трудно спрогнозировать, и либо хронические риски, которые длились и возникали в течение длительного времени, например, засуха или истощение водных ресурсов, и которые уже приводят к каким-либо последствиям. Если говорить о переходных рисках, то переходные риски, они связаны с той политикой, которую предпринимает государство по переходу к зеленой экономике, то есть это принятие каких-либо налоговых мер, то есть политику по карбоновому налогообложению, потом запрет на осуществление определенных видов деятельности. И те и другие риски, они напрямую влияют на субъекты предпринимательства. То есть могут наносить вред имуществу, вести к обесцениванию активов и залога, например, которые берут банки, а также вызывают у субъектов, то есть у клиентов банков дополнительные расходы, вследствие чего оказывают влияние на экономику. То есть если мы будем говорить конкретно про банки, то риски, они могут приводить как к кредитному, так и к рыночному, то есть они могут влиять на один определенный риск, и тогда можно их определять как климатический, но зачастую климатические риски, они в совокупности влияют на целую плеяду рисков, и тогда это просто транзакционный канал, который затрагивает всю банковскую сферу. Спасибо за внимание.
Да, спасибо. Очень интересно, Заряна. И мне кажется, вы показали такой амбициозный, скажем, план, да? Ваш третий слайд, план по времени, по-моему, это 2 года. I'm asking basically, it's quite ambitious that we go for these two, it's a 2 years horizon, right? We're already mid 2025. This should be implemented by end of 2027, you're saying, Заряна, right? Правильно?
Да, мы окончание стратегии, пока в планах это, на самом деле, это очень амбициозные планы, и мы планируем завершить какой-либо переход и настроить вообще надзор за рисками к концу 2027 года, то есть к началу 2028. Но на самом деле все будет зависеть от того, насколько банковская система будет быстро к этому адаптироваться, к рекомендациям. То есть он все-таки более гибкий, чем мы себе определили. То есть мы все равно ожидаем, что можем уступить и отойти назад. То есть принять какие-то меры позже в зависимости от ситуации.
Спасибо. From the audience, please, anybody got any questions right now for Zariana, looking at these quite ambitious plans, and there's a lot of work to be done inside the banks to get a good grip on climate-related risks. Any questions for now from the audience? Please raise your hand or open your microphone. No, not for now. Okay. I thought I was hearing somebody, but maybe I'm mistaken. Thank you so much, Zariana. Спасибо огромное. Maybe it's a good moment. We're doing nicely on time. There's one question. Zanim Khan. Sorry, before we move on. Один вопрос. There's one question from somebody. Kindly speak up. Можно на русском?
Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте, меня слышно?
Да, слышно.
Да. Заряна, я хотела спросить у вас, спасибо большое за презентацию, она была очень-очень информативная. Я хотела спросить, просто я пишу диссертацию на именно тему влияния ESG на я пишу на английском, на overall performance, там извиняюсь, на return on investment, получается, на return on assets, на профитабельность банковских банка. Вот я хотела спросить, в данное время какие банки уже внедряют ESG из узбекских банков, из наших банков, какие банки уже внедряют environmental, social and governance, вот эти аспекты ESG, и в каких банках можно уже найти какие-либо результаты. Спасибо большое за ваше внимание.
Ну, на самом деле банки начали довольно давно внедрять ESG риски в свои политики. На момент написания, на момент разработки стратегии было 10 банков, у которых имелись ESG-стратегии. Таймлайн их разработки, он был достаточно длинный. Были банки, которые еще внедряли в 2010 году, но большинство банков они внедряли в 2023-2024. Это как государственные, так и частные банки. При этом, если вы обратите внимание на их сайты, у многих есть ESG-рейтинги, которые предоставлены им со стороны международных рейтинговых агентств, то есть со стороны Moody's, там еще есть S&P, то есть работа, особенно у тех, кто работает, скорее всего, с Азиатским банком развития, с Европейским банком развития, за счет их средств, у них достаточно много кредитов, которые они выдают, и они должны соответствовать ESG-рамкам.
Спасибо за вопрос и ответ, Заряна. Еще вопрос. Is there any other question regarding the central bank plans for integrating or implementing ESG-related, climate risk-related themes?
Здравствуйте, Заряна. Спасибо за презентацию. Просто хотела бы узнать, вы сказали, вы планируете внедрить, да, в 2027 году, а как вы ожидаете банковская система Узбекистана? Вы сказали, там таймлайн может быть flexible, да, для банков. Хотела бы узнать,
У вас Извините, вы можете еще раз повторить вопрос, потому что на середине пропал звук, и я не успела расслышать.
Извиняюсь. Вы сказали, что внедрение для банков, таймлайн может быть flexible, да? Хотела бы узнать, есть ли какой план или видение, через какое-то время эти банки все они будут внедрять, во-первых. Во-вторых, после внедрения вы показали ликвидные кредитные риски, да? какой outcome вы ждете от банков? То есть они не должны дать кредиты или они должны дать кредиты людям, рассматривая эти риски? Как это может помочь? Просто я хотела понять, например, скажем, у нас в Центральной Азии проблема drought, да? У нас риск из-за изменения климата, из-за того, что у нас вода недостаточно. Как это может повлиять именно на такие риски? Как этот фреймворк поможет именно узбекистанцам предпринять меры?
Давайте, спасибо за вопрос. Я сначала отвечу на первый и насчет гибкости таймлайна. То есть первое – это рекомендации. Скорее всего, рекомендации банки получат в течение 2 месяцев. Они уже будут у них на руках в течение этих 2 месяцев. Начиная с этих 2 месяцев, они смогут перестраивать свою систему, то есть в течение 2 лет. У них будет 2 года для того, чтобы настроить систему. Это время Центральный банк будет мониторить, насколько они могут вообще управлять этими рисками. А на сегодняшний день мы еще не проводили проверку, потому что нету таких требований по управлению климатическими рисками. Поэтому сделать прогноз, насколько быстро они смогут перестроиться, мы не можем. Что же касается вообще кредитования, то если мы будем говорить о населении и о бизнесе, которые получают кредиты и находятся на тех территориях, которые наиболее подвержены, конечно, им, скорее всего, будут кредиты получить намного тяжелее, потому что, вот как вы отметили, засуха, она больше всего влияет, наверное, на районные и на сельское хозяйство. Сельское хозяйство, то есть, например, на те, кто находится в руслах реки, то есть засуха, и эти кредиты, они, банки, которые занимаются излишним агрофинансированием, им придется, когда они будут управлять рисками, либо делать большие резервы, либо сокращать сферу кредитования этой отрасли, то есть диверсифицировать свои риски. Поэтому, скорее всего, для агрофинансирования, для тех, кто находится на засушливых территориях, будет труднее. Но другой аспект, который будут предпринимать, наверное, и банки, и финансовые, то есть самофинансирование, это помочь своим заемщикам адаптироваться к изменению климата или снизить риски, то есть, например, сейчас путем капельного орошения, либо каких-либо других инструментов.
Спасибо. Спасибо, Заряна. Ирис, хотите коротко, потому что я не понял, кто вы. Вы можете коротко представить, откуда вы? Прошу прощения.
Здравствуйте. Я просто увидела в LinkedIn, я работаю именно в этой сфере, из-за этого было мне интересно. Я сама из Кыргызстана.
Понятно. Окей. Спасибо. И могу еще коротко добавить ваш вопрос, да, как будут банки потом действовать дальше, да, при этих новых правил. Тоже уже видно, что когда сейчас банки лучше в состоянии как-то оценивать такие риски, тоже будут видны в дальнейшем, что, например, как сказать, стоимость этих кредитов будет повыше, потому что банки должны, как сказать, тоже это включить на их косты, да, можно так сказать. Значит, чем больше риски там входит, включая climate risk, да, тоже чем выше interest rate для этих продуктов. Это такая дифференциация уже видно. Интерес по времени, скоро буду продолжать быстро на следующий спикер. Ольга, я вижу короткий вопрос с вашей стороны. Можно коротко задавать вопрос или отложить до последний час нашей презентации. Ольга, коротко скажите свой вопрос. Если длинный вопрос или долгий ответ, тогда отложим.
Да,
Коротко.
хорошо. Спасибо, Фердинанд. Я прошу прощения, что без камеры. Ольга Ульянова, независимый директор СКБ банка. Заряна, спасибо огромное за вашу презентацию. У меня такой вопрос. Центральный банк в какой-то перспективе планирует мотивировать банки к ESG за счет снижения каких-то регулятивных требований, потому что, как вы сами понимаете, это лучшая мотивация. Я понимаю, что это очень сложно, но Ну, может быть, коротко вы могли бы ответить на этот вопрос. Спасибо.
Да,
Видите,
пожалуйста, Заряна, короткий
да,
ответ. Да.
да, хорошо, мы только начали, поэтому пока мы не рассматривали вопросы, как мотивировать банки ESG, и главная цель стратегии самой была не мотивировать банки, то есть мы исходим с того, бизнес знает лучше, то есть наша цель, чтобы просто банки научились управлять рисками. Пока у нас вот в рамках этой стратегии нет планов по мотивации.
Есть, спасибо.
Спасибо, Заряна. Я вижу на чат тоже еще вопрос, но мы будем отдельно на эти обратиться дальше. Спасибо. Тогда сейчас время для Эрен, который будет, кто будет нам рассказать, who will tell us, Aaron will tell us about his experience introducing ESG and climate in TBC Bank as a kind of quasi mini case study. Aaron, would you like to present your short story on what happened in TBC? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this presentation has to do with setting up the foundations for an ESG committee. I have a bias towards financial services, so a bank. And I'd like to say that we set up the committee, which I chair 3 years ago. As an opening statement, during that time, just to show you the upside, if you do it right, we've achieved a AA rating from MSCI on ESG. And we have achieved low risk from sustainability, from Sustainalytics, which is a very difficult thing to do. And the message is very simple, is that you have to build some basic foundations and not keep it all hypothetical. The challenge is always has been that ESG is a very fast-moving target. There are many, many terms and acronyms. There are many, many views. There are many different stakeholders. There are very many topics. It's very, very technical. It is more complex than people realize, and the market perceptions change all the time. So you take that fast-moving story, and the main role, I think, of the board and the committee is to give and support a strategy that's clear, but most importantly, is implementable, not just theoretical. So I'll walk you through just 4 or 5 slides, keep it really simple, because I think it should be. By the way, can you see the slides? Okay. So first of all, there are 4, before I go into the first slide, there are 4 different pillars, I think, in the first 2 years of the committee you should build. One of them has to do with the strategy as a foresight, where do you want to be? The second one has to do with the strategy as an oversight. How do you actually oversee the implementation? The third one is reporting. Reporting is a massive topic in ESG and growingly so, and it's slowly becoming mandatory. For us as a FTSE-listed bank, it is mandatory. And the fourth one is policies. The policies framework in the organization have to be adjusted to support the ESG topics. I will start with the strategy formulation. So what elements should be in a strategy? And I would keep strategy pretty simple as much as you can. The first thing you have to do is you map your own organization. You have to understand your own organization from an ESG angle. The second one is do a gap analysis, roughly, initially, where you want to be and where you are today. So you have to understand what is the road you need to travel on to get there. Third, in the strategy, you have to define the process. So you're going to speak to external stakeholders like IFIs of technical support. There are out there some specialized organizations that provide funding and input. And then the fourth one is part of the strategy. How are you going to actually do the execution bit within the organization? How are you going to execute it? The second thing, which I think is where a lot of committees miss on, is the fact that once you actually come up with a strategy formulation, how are you as a board going to oversee that it's actually implemented? In TBC, we went and we built up again different 4 pillars for this. One is direct impact. So that's scope 1 and 2, indirect impact, scope 3, and that's very complicated for banks. Fourth is the social elements, and the fourth is governance, which includes reporting and awareness building educational programs. Now that's the first part. That's the 4 pillars. But after that, you got to put the targets, and then you have to put milestones to achieve the targets per quarter reported to the committee. So that's the strategy oversight. It's much harder than it seems, and that is the bridge between the theory and the target setting to real work by the executives, overseen and reported to by the board committee. The third pillar that you need to achieve in the first couple of years, I think, as a foundation is the disclosures and the reporting. It's no longer, I mean, for big institution, it's already heavily expected to do. Whether you do it through the European version of the reporting or the UK TCFD version, you got to start building the story, and that takes a long time because the reporting tends to be quite detailed nowadays. The world is moving to IFRS reporting. It's still not mandatory, but again, it will be. You cannot one day or in 1 year wake up and do IFRS reporting properly. It takes a long time. And therefore, you got to build the mechanisms and the internal expertise to produce things like sustainability report. And just like I would say, I mean, I think all large institutions already start doing trial, IFRS S1 and S2 reporting. The sustainability report, by the way, which we've been doing for 6 years now, goes right into the financial reports and goes right into all the stakeholders, in our case, shareholders, that look at that quite carefully as part of the financial statements. The fourth one seems potentially easy, but it's still a lot of work. During those couple first years, the fourth foundations I would expect for a new committee to do is actually do a real kick in the tires, shake up of all the policies in the organization, things that have been dormant, have not been reviewed for a long time, or things that have been around for a long time, but haven't really been amended to include ESG topics, like human rights policies on the social part, like diversity, DEI, diversity, equality and inclusion, and most importantly, environmental and climate policies. If they don't exist, you already have to come up with them. Again, these things are a process. Once the policies are in place, again, it's not just putting them in place. There's got to be an oversight of some sort to make sure that it's implemented in the organization through awareness building, so people know that these policies exist and they need to be adhered to. It's not just theoretical. So those were the four pillars of the foundations, if you like, of ESG committees. And I think all the four are instrumentally really, really critically important to get it right. But to do that, you also have to put the kind of oversee and commission the CEO and the management to put the right infrastructure in place. And that is, if I was to say the management, you have to have a proper ESG executives with experience, or they learn quickly. We have an ESG executive level committee. So before it comes to the board, they've already discussed it and it comes to us after they've done their homework. You have to have a properly, I'm talking about large organizations. This would not be applicable to small ones, but you have to have a proper ESG department. My view is that ESG departments, the reporting line is really important. It should be not to the IR or marketing, which it often is. It has to go under risk and with a dual kind of directly to the committee. So the person in charge of ESG should be able to have a communication directly to the supervisory committee as well. There is a lot of risk assessments that need to be done, from credit vetting as what is the environmental impact on clients. There's got to be a team also within the risk department. And a competence center is a working group that actually coordinates the topics across the whole organization. One closing statement, because these questions come up all the time. Should there be an ESG committee in the first place? My answer is that in large institutions and practically most, if not all banks, it is very important that it is there. It takes it to a different level. And moreover, ESG is not a uniform topic as far as perceptions are concerned. The supervisory board committee, when it's there, the importance of the topic becomes quite apparent to everybody in the organization. And the CRO, or CSO, sorry, has an easier life, pointing to the fact that there are eyes watching the process day to day.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Very, very enlightening and very interesting to hear what TBC has been doing, and from the Georgian perspective, I think very, very insightful also for a market like Uzbekistan. I'm not sure how many banks in Uzbekistan have already reached this level of, let's say, organizational sophistication. Maybe a quick question to you. You already referred to it briefly, but ESG committee at executive level, at board level. I suppose you have one at board level and at executive level, right? Could you comment a bit on what would be the most let's say what would be the smartest for Ukrainian financial institutions moving along this curve? Executive board, supervisory board, where should the ESG committee sit looking at all of this?
Right. So I think we have to understand the corporate governance framework is that the supervisory board committee should not turn or even remotely become the executive force around ESG. It's a very healthy relationship when someone actually operates and executes it in a function, oversees it, and gives it its targets and strategy, and then oversees the implementation on a reporting basis. If you mix the two, it doesn't really work well, and it's not the role of the supervisory board. So an executive function, whether it's a committee or just a strong local executive level coordination, if that functions properly, by the time it comes to the supervisory board, the discussion's already at a mature level, not on an execution level basis. And therefore, I would hate to be in a supervisory board committee when there is not a functioning executive decision making, and it simply unfiltered comes to the board. It would not also be very effective.
Okay, thank you for giving that perspective. Turning briefly to the audience, any questions based on these more governance related aspects on getting your ESG committee up and running and what to look for? Any questions from the audience? Please raise your hand, open your microphone.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering, when you set up this ESG governance in TBC, what has been your biggest challenge in developing all of this completely new governance?
No, it's amazing. Great. My favorite question. So there's two main challenges. One of them is, I briefly touched upon it. ESG is a very, very fast-moving target. It's evolving all the time. A lot of the terms and the ideas and the reporting requirements that were discussed 3 years ago are not as relevant today. Target setting has changed. Market perception has changed. The political environment, as we all know, has changed. But how do you take this, this big overhang of fruit salad of topics, and they're moving parts and everything. How do you take that and put it and help the executives come up with an implementable plan with objectives that are not going to change? I'll give you two examples. Gender representation is not going to change. It may have headwinds and tailwinds, but we all know that there's got to be an adjustment to female representation in decision-making bodies. Another example is we all know that carbon emission is an issue. Whether one administration sees it as a big thing and the other one doesn't, over time, ESG is a long-term, mid-long-term target. It's not short-term. It will still be there. The problems are not going away. So the challenge is to take all of that and help the executives still, irrespective of all these forces, have some kind of plan and implement it with very clear milestones. The second biggest challenge is the big difference in perceptions and also as far as enthusiasm is concerned. Not all boards, not all members in the boards are willing to spend time to understand the concepts or to support the concepts. It's unlike, let's say, risk and audit that are very clearly, they're very old functions and, the importance is understood and it is very important. In ESG, it's always still headwind, tailwind, even within the boards to get the priorities right.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your response. So you said ESG is changing, the targets are changing, carbon is a problem, and it's never going to be very difficult to change and take a lot of time. Or do you think if it would be mandatory by top, government side, or would it be easier, or what should be done in order to be able to kind of effectively drive?
Well, reporting is already becoming mandatory slowly. Again, we are under an obligation to do TCFD because we're listed at the FTSE in the UK. And targets, most targets are still soft targets, but keep in mind that even if it was mandatory, it's not that most organizations are in a position to implement. Law has to be implementable as well. I mean, the readiness, the level of readiness is not there. Plus, please see the topic, as my view is that it's a fermenting topic. It's a topic in motion. I think that in the next few years, with people like ourselves helping the process, it will mature a lot and things will be much more crystallized. And then I believe also the law will come in things that they currently reflect upon and discuss and give guidelines will actually eventually turn into laws.
Okay,
Great.
thank you. Thank you, Iris, for your question, and thanks for your answer, Aaron. And I think you said just now, of course, probably not everyone is as keenly into the subjects or is as enthusiastic about ESG, but ultimately the problems related to that are not going to go away. It's not like it's a fashion now and next year it will be out of fashion, so I don't really have to pay attention.
Exactly.
It's going to stay, and we all have to learn to deal with it. We have to learn to speak the language ultimately, right? Talk about it in a structured way, and indeed design the proper bodies and ways and policies of dealing with it. So I think that has been very insightful. In the chat, there's a few more questions. Actually, in terms of time, I would like to propose that we save them for the last bit of our webinar. So thank you so much, Aaron, because after having the perspective of the Ministry of Economic and Finance, the central bank, now we have a prime example of a bank implementing the governance side of things, TBC. Now the final presentation, the final speaker of this webinar is Tetiana from KPMG, who will give us a bit of a broader perspective on what's happening not only in Uzbekistan. So, Tetiana, may I ask you to present, and we're happy to hear from you right now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ferdinand, and thank you for invitation. Я хотела бы сегодня рассказать чуть-чуть более подробнее о практическом подходе о ESG-трансформации, от первых шагов к цифровой экосистеме, который может сделать банк для того, чтобы, с одной стороны, ускорить раскрытие информации, с другой стороны, в полной мере соответствовать требованиям регулятора. И давайте еще раз посмотрим на ключевые драйверы. которые будут все больше и больше сдвигать банки, финансовый сектор к процессу автоматизации. Конечно, в первую очередь это, как уже отметил представитель Центрального банка Зарьяна, это и те требования, которые будут предъявляться к финансовому сектору в области разработки климатических стратегий, оценки климатических рисков, физических и переходных, проведения климатического стресс-теста, а также и в целом это те драйверы, которые позволят банкам повысить операционную эффективность и обеспечить цифровизацию процессов при сборе и консолидации данных и метрик по различным ESG-аспектам. Это и социальный аспект, это и environmental, окружающая среда, это и governance. И вот давайте посмотрим на следующем слайде, как двигается финансовый сектор на примере Казахстана. Там регулятор чуть-чуть раньше опубликовал рекомендации, и, соответственно, ряд банков уже разработал и начал внедрение климатических стратегий, провел климатическое стресс-тестирование. Мы также сопровождали эти банки в таких процедурах, в разработке риск-матриц, климатические риски, физические, переходные, соответственно, определение каналов трансмиссии и перехода климатических рисков на классические банковские виды рисков. Соответственно, здесь немножечко вот Казахстан идет с некоторым опережением, и это уже нам позволяет говорить о том, что в соответствии еще и с требованиями, которые ожидаются от АССБ, а это стандарт ФРС С2, климатические риски и возможности, будут сокращаться сроки раскрытия информации и для банков Узбекистана. Соответственно, здесь можно сказать, что банки попадают в такие некоторые ножницы. Да? С одной стороны, регулятор их двигает по повестке устойчивого развития, по климатической повестке. С другой стороны, нефинансовые раскрытия в связи с тем, что сроки будут сокращаться. Если сейчас банки раскрывают отчеты об устойчивом развитии в июле, в августе отдельно от общего годового отчета, то уже начиная с 2026 года все-таки рекомендацией ФРС С2 становится раскрытие одновременно вместе с консолидированной отчетностью по ФРС. Также можно отметить и рекомендацию со стороны УЗАСЭЦ как основного акционера для компаний с государственным участием. И здесь в рамках публикации дорожной карты УЗАСЭЦ мы видим, что также в 2026 году есть рекомендация по внедрению технологий средств автоматизации для ускорения сбора ESG данных. И вот на следующем слайде мы можем посмотреть, каким же образом банки могут имплементировать те средства и ESG tools, которые доступны на сегодняшний момент, продвигаясь от более простых инструментов к более сложным. Здесь, конечно, это влияет на те инвестиции, которые понадобятся банкам для того, чтобы внедрить эти решения. Самый простой – это создание базы учета ESG метрик и показателей для отчетности по GRI стандарту, по ФРС С1, С2, также возможны в рамках раскрытий по ЕСРС. И это такое полуавтоматизированное решение, которое предполагает продвинутые функции Excel, совмещенные с Power BI, что позволит получить менеджменту дэшборды, в которых можно будет отслеживать ESG-метрики и индикаторы. Более сложная история – это облачные решения, уже разработанные. Здесь мы можем говорить о таких инструментах, как WorkVivo, Microsoft, которые позволяют внедрить и управлять цифровыми платформами, подключая любое количество пользователей внутри банка для того, чтобы можно было собирать данные со всех филиалов банка и более качественно управлять ими. И, конечно, самый сложный, но и самый качественный подход – это внедрение соответствующих модулей в ERP-систему на базе SAP. SAP уже предлагает различные модули, которые позволяют полностью управлять ESG-повесткой, собирать данные по Scope 1, Scope 2 и Scope 3. Наверное, Scope 3 финансируемые эмиссии – это наиболее интересная составляющая и наиболее сложная для банковского сектора. Но это автоматизация расчета финансируемых эмиссий существенно сократит сроки и облегчит команде банка, работу с этими данными и своевременное раскрытие такой информации. На следующем слайде у нас представлено вот как раз такой вот дэшборд. Это KPMG Smart решение, которое позволяет собирать, структурировать данные, интегрировать в IT-системы банка и, соответственно, раскрывать ESG-отчетность в соответствии с международными стандартами. Как я сказала, это и GRI, IFRS S1, S2 и ESRS, CSRD. Спасибо большое за внимание. Если есть какие-то вопросы, с удовольствием на них отвечу.
Спасибо, Татьяна. Думаю, очень интересный подход. Interesting topic you're touching upon. Indeed, there is, I think, still a big need to find IT solutions to meet all the requirements. And as the pressure is on to have more mandatory reporting, central bank has certain requirements. There is a lot of, let's say, pressure on financial institutions in Uzbekistan to come up with solutions like the one you're presenting. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to ask a question specifically now to Tatjana's presentation, please?
Maybe I will start with the question. I think people might be curious, saying like how much this ESG automation using IT tools could cost. Like what is the range? And does it come as just a package?
That's an interesting question, but as I mentioned previously, it depends on the type of solution, and of course it varies from the something like $20,000 to to individual tools and decisions just to implement it to concrete financial institution.
Thank you, Zamira, for the question. Any other question from the audience regarding Tatjana's presentation? Okay, not for the moment. Thank you. Actually, just to go a bit further on what Zamira was just asking, or actually what also Tatjana was presenting, there is, of course, out there in the market and next to the solution which is presented here by Tatjana, there's many other providers. I can tell you in SQB Bank we're also looking at this, and well, there's many people knocking on the doors of the bank saying we've got the perfect solution for you because you have to meet all these requirements. You need your reporting in order, you need to have your data collection in order. So there is a lot of let's say solutions out there already, which have been proven in other markets already. Anybody from the audience commenting, please, on Tatjana's presentation?
Again, sorry, I just was wondering, you touched on how Kazakhstan is moving forward and ahead of Uzbekistan. Can you just explain on how they are doing or they started before? Is there what's the market is mature? Can you talk about that if that's possible?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I've mentioned previously that it was a regulatory requirements, and they started 2 years earlier, actually, with their roadmap than Uzbekistan. And actually, now we are, after the presentation from Central Bank and Zarina's speech, we do understand that actually Uzbekistan now on the track, and maybe it's not such a dramatic gap between Kazakhstani and Uzbekistan market right now.
Thank you.
And Tatjana, looking at the other markets you have a view on, I think you're also looking at the Caucasus markets, or Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan. Any striking differences compared to what you would see in Uzbekistan or other Central Asian markets? What else would you be looking at if you look at the markets you're having in your portfolio?
Yeah, Ferdinand, quite really interesting question, but I can say that actually from Central Asian perspective, it's not such a dramatic gap as compared to European market, because it's a European Central Bank and Bank of England. They're just far ahead of developing countries, and actually we are trying to implement best practices from those markets to Central Asia.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else questions for Tatiana? If not, then I would like to basically circle back to when we started, when we had all the presentations still ahead of us, having looked at Ministry of Economic and Finance, the Central Bank, the TBC experience, and the KPMG perspective. And we saw a few questions also in the chat. Let me start with one of the questions which were posed in the chat. There was Evgenia who was asking the question. I'll just read it out. It was a question to Aaron. And I think it's a question which is indeed on the minds of probably some others as well here in the group. And I'm reading it out, in many Central Asian markets, there is a common perception that a strong focus on ESG may ultimately undermine operational efficiency and profitability. Based on your experience, what strategies or arguments have proven effective in shifting this mindset? So it's indeed like convincing people, hey, this is not just an additional cost, and this is just what the regulator says. How can we change the mindset instead of saying it's only a cost? Aaron, would you like to comment?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's actually not only in Central Asia. I think it's worldwide.
It's everywhere. Yeah, you're right.
It's everywhere. And the awareness may be different levels of different jurisdictions, but the concerns are similar. There's a few ways to answer this. One of them is that, again, I'm focusing on large institutions because they will be the ones in focus. It will become a requirement, whether we like it or not. Like compliance in banks, when it came in the 90s, nobody liked it. Everybody said it's a burden. Banks lost clients. Operational costs went up in vetting clients, but now people do it because they know they have to. I believe that's the process we will go with ESG. The difference to compliance is that ESG is much more complex, and you can't wake up one day and say you have to put the infrastructure in place. It takes years, and therefore, the quicker you start, the more ready you'll be for the future. But I would say that ESG doesn't necessarily have to be viewed as a priority. It's an incremental steps that you take as part of your other activities. It's not like one day you have to be holier than the Pope with your ESG. You don't. I also don't think that net zero is an achievable target. I think it's a utopian target, but you can mitigate your way towards less emissions. As far as business is concerned, there are actually opportunities. I'll give you two examples from TBC. And one of them is we have a green portfolio that didn't exist before. So we are able to get funding ourselves for green purposes, and we lend it to clients that have green needs. And all of a sudden, we have kind of a parallel, or part of our balance sheet is actually green, and it will reach $500 million by the end of this year. So it's not even that small. And where does it come into play? You go to a client and tell them that, if they upgrade their energy efficiencies or their solar panels or whatever it may be, then you have funding for them. And we get funding that we wouldn't otherwise get funding on the liability side. So you can build a balance sheet with liabilities and assets on the loan side. The other thing is that there are new technologies that are efficient, whether it's agriculture or in building, that the clients don't have the mindset. But if you tell them, listen, I got funding for you if you borrow, and guess what? It comes with this technology. It actually improves your productivity, may need less people. And by the way, it cuts emissions. And I got the money for you because I've got people lending me in the back of my salary. It works. So it's also a business. And it's also a business not for pure profits, but a business that has ancillary benefits for the environment. Tested and done. Is it always the case? No, it's definitely not always the case. Certain things that you implement, if you're forced to implement, may be a burden and not economically benefit. But again, I believe that will be mandatory in due course, slowly, incrementally. That's where we're going.
Okay, thank you, Erin, for your perspective on that, and I hope it answered the question. Maybe Tatiana, this question which I just asked to Erin, would you like to comment on that as well? Because you have this regional overview. How do you see the ESG perception in the boardrooms of banks? How do you convince people to move on this? I mean, apart from the regulatory threat, so you have to. But I mean, how do you convince them? Any comments on that, Tatiana?
Yeah, actually, we have plenty cases right now with financial sector to implement ESG strategies first of all, and CCG action plans. And I think that especially for corporate governance procedures, it's just a key factor for the success to implement climate agenda. And we actually try to provide diagnostic road mapping to help businesses to improve their ESG practices to the next level. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tatiana. I see another question in the chat, which is directed, I think it doesn't say, but I think it's to Shagzad. It's about these green certificates. The question comes from Cholpon Biegaleva. Hello, I'm reading it out. Hello, how is the pricing on green certificates determined? So how do you know that it should be sold at this particular price? And why is the Ministry of Economy and Finance trading with certificates and not for example, the Ministry of Energy? This was the question by Chopin. Shagzad, would you like to comment on that? How do you establish the price on those green certificates? And why are you doing it as the Ministry of Economic and Finance, and why not the Ministry of Energy? Just out of curiosity, would you mind giving an answer, Shagzad?
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the question, Cholpan. Based on the regulations of Cabinet of Ministers, the Ministry of Economic and Finance has identified as the issuer. So we have signed the agreement with the I-REC standard. So therefore, we are kind of issuing the certificates. So when we have developed the regulations, so we determined, it's highlighted that overall the green policy is headed by Minister of Economy and Finance. So it's recommended to place our ministry as an issuer. So coming with the price. So based on the overall, the experience of I-REC certification throughout the world, and especially with the Kazakhstan, we have faced that for the initial stage, the prices started from €1, and there is a just market starting, and there is the buyers. The amount of buyers is not so much, so therefore we are started with the €1, and for the price we are not identifying the price. The ministry is just issuing the certificates. So based on the requests from for example, the Uzhydro Energy, we are kind of pressing just the button that we would like to issue this amount of the certificates. that generated from such of the plant and etc. So coming to the price, this it's based on the market. So you can also buy it for $10 or $100, but still there is a very low requirements from the buyers. Therefore, the price is very low for now. And I would like to also comment the second question regarding the taxonomy. For now, it's not obligatory, and we are not using it kind of, the pressing the banks in this direction. But the green taxonomy is allows to identify the green projects. So banks could identify their, they could give their products as a credits based on the taxonomy. So taxonomy helps to identify this project is green or not. It's kind of, it's not about the obligatory, but it's more about the good opportunity for the banks to highlighting, to kind of, to link with the regulation of the cabinet of minister and said that, yes, okay, I will give you, for example, this kind of amount, the credit line, but you have to, align with the requirements and the activities based on the regulations. I would like also to highlight the ESG. So as you may know, we have adopted the state program for the 2025, and there is we are working closely with the Uz assets, and Tatiana also mentioned that the big kind of actions that is taken from the Uz asset side. And for this year, we are planning to obtain an ESG rating for the 5 joint stock companies like Uzbekneftgaz, Airways, the airports, and Navoy and Al-Malik metallurgy companies. So our aim to get this kind of ratings, ESG ratings, to all to more than 20 joint stock companies that have the kind of, the state sharing. Yeah, that's all for my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Shagzat, for your answer, and I hope this is in answer to the question which was raised in the chat. Thank you again. I would like to also be mindful of the time. I think we have another, let's say, 10 minutes to go until the formal end of the webinar. And before people start already switching off, I will host one more question. But we would like everyone, if possible, to stay on until the very end and switch on their cameras, because we would like to make, just for publicity reasons, also a nice, unless you have any problems with that, a nice screenshot, so we can use that in our in Chapter Zero's media outings on this particular webinar. So please feel free to. You can already do it now, but we want to do it as the last thing in this webinar in a couple of minutes. We would like to have you all visible, so that will give you 7 or 8 minutes to do your makeup and make sure that you look your perfect best on the screen in a minute. But before that, there's one last question which I would like to pose, and that question came from Sameh Khan. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And it was addressed, it was written in the chat, it was addressed to Aaron again. Question is as follows, and I'm reading it out. It would be interesting to know what was the effect of ESG implementation in the short term in TBC. We know that mostly ESG has a longer term effect or target, but many probably stakeholders, shareholders would like to see short-term results. Being short-term orientated. Were there any short-term effects, let's call them positive effects, of this implementation which you mentioned, Aaron? Would you like to comment on those short-term effects?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I agree with the idea that ESG is a mid to long-term play. It's a little bit like these big aircraft carriers in the Navy, and when you want to move to the left or right, you tilt it now, it moves hours later. That's how slow big ships move and change course, and it's very true about ESG. But there are parts that you can see things relatively decently quick. When I say quick, a couple of years. So if we start with the environment, and you look at scope 1 and 2 as a bank, because it differs from industries, you can actually reduce your consumption from carbon emitting energy sources to non-carbon emitting energy sources quickly, and your scope 1 and 2 will come down relatively quick because we're talking about only a branch network, which is not as big anymore anyway. The second thing is car. You put cars that are, energy efficient or electric, then all of a sudden your 1 and 2 comes down quite drastically. That's the low-lying fruit when it comes to the E. On the S, it's actually not quick because getting social adjustments takes a long time and a lot of awareness. But that's often accelerated by regulatory requirements for female representation, which I'm not sure it exists in Uzbekistan, but I'm sure it will come at one point. And then it can happen quickly. And on governance, you can do things pretty quickly. All my slides on how you put a framework of governance, policies, etc. in an organization, you can do that within 2 years easy. So again, depending on the industry and depending on the aspects of ESG, not everything is long term.
All right. Thank you so much, Aaron, and I hope Salim Khan, that was the answer you were looking for. So thank you for that. And I guess that brings us to the end of our webinar, at least for the presentation and the Q&A side of things. As I already mentioned, and I will hand it over in a minute to Zamira to put us in the proper order. We would like to take a nice screenshot picture with all the cameras on. But before handing it over to Zamira, thanking the respected speakers which we had on our webinar today, thanking them for their contribution, and thanking you as the audience for interacting with them and asking questions. And hopefully you've learned something on the way. You'll get all the slides. So be sure that you get the materials which were on the screen today. And we hope to see you again. Zamira, would you like to take over from here?
Yes, thank you very much, actually, Ferdinand, for moderating this great webinar. And again, thank you very much to all the speakers. So just wanted to make maybe there's some final notes or some of the final observations so far. So legislation is there, the roadmap is set. So we have already the mission of the government where we should go. And I think it was very nice from the Ministry of Economy and Finance side to provide the taxonomy. So it serves as a guideline, right, for that other companies and banks can use as a classification tool later on to shape the strategy. And also we see that we need the ESG not just as a imposed something, but more for the risk management purposes, so that in long term the banks will survive and they will not have any crashes. So it's mostly done for the sustainability purposes. And I think to conclude, we can say that ESG should not be just perceived as a cost, but more should be perceived as an investment into the future. And I would say mostly long-term investment and not a very short-term investment, and just should be built in the strategy of the company. And then once you know the strategy, then you can create your ESG committee, right? Based on what Aaron was suggesting today. And I also wanted to thank the participants who also were patiently listening to this a long webinar. And please don't be shy. A couple more people. Turn on your cameras. Let's do the screenshot. And wanted to say, Chapter 0 will still be doing more webinars and doing more online and offline events as well. So Scope 1 and Scope 2 reporting will be coming soon. So this is we consider it to be a low-hanging fruit, something that would be easily that companies can get started. So please stay tuned about this. So so even if you're somewhere turning the camera, amazing. Yeah. I'm really happy to see more. Couple more. Come on, don't be shy. Yeah, thank you. Amazing. Couple more. I see couple 2 empty boxes. So 2 more people, please, so that the screen would be full. And then we can take a screenshot and we can say, I don't know, ESG. Yeah. Okay, great. Couple more screenshots. Okay, I think good. Victoria, did you manage to take some more? Okay, I think good. So thank you very much, everyone, for participation and speaking up.
Thank you very much for organizing this amazing webinar. It was very informative.
Yeah, let's do more of those. And great that you were all able to make it at this late hour on Friday in Tashkent. I know weekend is approaching fast. So wishing you a good weekend and hopefully see each other on the next occasion in Chapter Zero's activities.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.